Hello everyone and welcome to the Ironage. It is 2000 to 6000 BC here in our little sim plot, and things are about to change. We have discovered new technologies, we've found new people, and our little village is growing. It's become a permanent spot here on this part of the land, and we are putting in things to make sure that the neighbouring tribes, which we despise, doesn't come and burn us to the ground or loot our stuff. So lots of towns and settlements that were coming more permanent put up walls that were normally fenced, and they had guards, and the enemies heads shoved on poles on them, and they were called balustrades. They used sharpened logs to stick in the ground to make these fences, which I will be doing later on in the video, which is very tedious. But at the moment we are making a new feature in our little town, which is the chief's hut. The chief would be the main guy in the village. He would be in charge of all the warriors. He would be the strongest, the most skilled in combat, and that's how it would come. And his lineage would be passed down from his son to son, and they would be in charge of the village. So we are now making structures out of wood, as we have learned to utilize that better and make our houses more into wooden and thatched structures, which are slightly bigger and slightly more waterproof. We use the reeds and stuff by the ponds and the rivers to create the thatch and make a watertight sort of houses and spaces. As we have a more permanent settlement, we have started to get traders from the next villages, and the ones that we actually like, and ones further afield from as well. So we have some foreign traders which use the riverways and waterways of England to bring us different foods and wine and sort of metals and all sorts of stuff, and they range from anywhere in nearest vicinities of Europe all the way out to the Mediterranean. So we are learning a load of new stuff from them. We have also got our own dialect, and we are now speaking in Celtic or Gaelic. The Welsh language has now established itself by this time as well as a derivative of all those three languages. We are also calling ourselves Celts, and we are calling the French the Gauls, and we have started that beautiful rivalry between the French and the English, and obviously sea levels have risen, so there is more of a cut-off between England, France and the Northern Isles. As we are trading more, we have learned and become skilled craftsmen as well. So as we go along this village, we will be seeing our own blacksmith, who is creating jewelry, weapons and tools to help production. So because we have these new metals which we've discovered, we can now make tools to plow better, to fish better, to hunt better, and to kill each other better, which is always a good fun. And we have jewelry as well, so we can trade these metals. Main metals that we have discovered at the moment is that we have some mining areas here in England and Wales, which we are getting gold, silver and copper, and that is mainly based in Wessex, which will soon to become the capital of England. And in Wales is one of the biggest copper mines that we have, which is from a place in North Wales called the Great Orme. If you haven't been there, check it out. And we have some tin mines which will be sticking around for a very long time in Cornwall and Devon, and this means that we can trade with any of the people that arrive on our shores with other goods that we don't have, like wine and stuff like that. So as we have developed these skills, we obviously have developed a currency, because obviously there would probably be a barter system in place at the start. We were trading things for similar values, but now we have brought in iron bars as our currency. So the more iron bars, clearly the more wealthy you are and the more things that you can afford to do. And as we are making pottery, we can eat better, we can cook better, and the main pottery hubs in the UK were Kent, Hertfordshire and Essex, as they were on the coast. They're on the east coast, so it's easy for them to trade to near enough the whole of mainland Europe from there, because you can get to the Scandinavian countries, you can get to Amsterdam, you can get to most of France and Belgium, so it is a good spot to put them all there. We have also domesticated a lot more animals, so we have sheep, cattle, pigs, and we are clearly varying our diet as well, because we of course are eating them. And we are also still having deer. There aren't so many boar or hippos or elephants or that anymore, because the temperatures are slowly dropping, but we are eating shellfish and birds as well. We now have a different structure in the town, because we have a chief. So he is the big badass of the town, and he is in charge. But below him would be the warriors. They would be our second most skilled people in the town. They would be trained to fight, and they would protect everyone here in the village. And then we would have our priests would be below them. So our little religion is developing. We are still worshipping the woods and the spiritual animals and stuff like that, but that is soon to change in a few thousand years time, as we get a wonderful invasion. And then under the priest will be the blacksmith, because obviously we can't defend ourselves or make products or sell things and become more efficient without a blacksmith. So that is near enough the hierarchy in this town, and they were the most important people. And we have also started to make our own identity a bit more. So this was mainly done through tattooing different patterns, sort of Gaelic patterns, if you've never seen some of the Celtic designs. So we were doing all those all over our bodies and our houses and our artwork and stone carving and all sorts of stuff like that, so we could identify any member of our clan, which is what a more Scottish term would be for calling the village or the tribe or whatever. That so we would all have similar sort of tattoos, and the different families would have them as well. So these later turn into the family crests and things that you see. So the most important people have a family crest. They have certain images which obviously derive from way back to this time, when people were stating who they were and what ranking and what position in life they were, due down to the fact that they had certain images on their bodies. And this also came into the clothes and the shields and stuff. Obviously, if you've done any history, you would know that they kind of used to go into battles near enough naked, just to scare people and to put the fear into the hearts of definitely the next lot of invaders that come, the first lot of invaders to Britain actually. And we will find all about those in the next video. And we have sound wooden boats. We are making proper looking wooden boats as well now, and we are also making a round boat that is called a conicals, and they're shaped like the shell as well. So they're a round single boat, and they were good for navigating down the smaller waterways and getting fish and carrying stuff as well. So we will also have, because we are doing pottery, we will have a pottery kiln that we will see, which was first used by digging a mound of soil, covering it over, and using the heat of the ground to sort of cook the clay that we had dug out of the earth and fashioned into different pots and stuff. So they kind of used the heat of the earth and the logs, so you'd have the fire at the bottom and you'd put the pots and stuff to dry in and the layer above, and then you'd have a chimney that goes out to the top as well, so you could make all different things. And obviously they would know a bit more about dyes and stuff from the different berries and stuff, so most of the colours you can get are all made from natural sources. So obviously with the discovery of copper, we would get yellows and different colours like that. And the houses themselves obviously made of wood. They've also got a bit more of a structure to them at the top, and they would have a bit more sophisticated sort of cooking system in there, so they'd be hanging pots from the ceiling off a wooden structure, and they would also be having a bit more well made furniture and everything. Because we are having rivalry with our nearest tribe members, we would also have a fort as well, which would be a safe place for all the village to go if we did get under siege, and that would be off into the distance, and we would all be safe there. And there would have been nearly 3,000 of these hilltop forts over Britain, and they were mainly had like a big like round top, but with a ditch round it to protect it, and they kind of had different functions depending on where they were. A lot of them were for the safety, and they could be used for gathering, like seasonal gatherings to do with like different religious festivals and activities. Some of them were used as trade hubs, so a load of the different villages might get together and use them to have a central trade point and exchanging, and kind of just a big storage centre for some of the border communities as well, if they couldn't get to different things. And they ranged in size depending on where they were, so some of them were quite small and enclosed, and some of them were huge, and depending on where they were exactly depended on how big and how necessary they actually needed them. And beyond the hill forts, there were a different type of settlement called crangons. They were kind of based near banks of rivers and ditches, and they were like small little towns, and they kind of used the timber and stone to kind of make them up. They kind of lived on the marshes and the edge of lakes, and they supplied most of the timber and stone, and they became enclosed settlements afterwards, and had the circular huts, and were a bit more village like. They kind of grew up into different towns that still exist now. And as our religion kind of built, sort of the people became a bit more religious, they started burying their people, and some of them were actually buried in pits along the hillside forts. So if you ever see in England sort of the mounds near like Stonehenge and stuff, they were all for burial as well. Some people were buried in bogs as well, so if it was like a boggy area, and they would put them in the bog. Obviously some people tragically died in the bogs as well, and we have been able to like get these people out, and they're near enough in perfect condition because there's no oxygen in a bog, so it kind of mummifies the person, so we could use it for identification as well. And even some of the bodies were buried in small stone coffins called ciettes, and that was done mainly in the East Yorkshire area and also in the Champagne area of France as well. So it kind of depended on how easy it was for your settlement to get hold of different materials and different ways of doing stuff as well. Also started to bury some of the better known like Celtic warriors and stuff with the helmets, shields and swords and sort of riches that could pass with them to the next life as well, which became more of a thing when the Vikings came along, which they probably would have been already sort of developing at this time. And there was also a more growing influence from the Romans as well, because obviously the Romans during this time were developing at such a faster rate compared to here in Britain, so they were obviously going to establish themselves over as the most dominant sort of culture soon, and we'll obviously see the impact of that on our village. Well, not on our village necessarily, but on the surrounding area as we come into the 2000s to the ADs in the next part. But we are nearly finishing off our village. We've got a few different crops as well, which really expanded the population of Britain. It kind of exceeded nearly 1 million people over this time period, which was, considering that we came from scarcely having people around, like the nearest settlement would have been like 80 kilometers from us, like nearly 1 million people would have been an extreme boost to the population. We obviously see that the pathways in our little settlement are getting stronger. We've got some more dirt and cracked ground going, kind of looking a bit more like proper roadways and stuff. And we have obviously got a lot more chickens. We build a little chicken coop as well because our village has domesticated them, so they are rearing them for eggs and for meat as well. And we're growing different fruits, so we've got pumpkins, and they would have had beans and peas and wheat as well. This sort of baking and turning it into flour and stuff was developing as well, as people discovered that you could crush the wheat seeds and it would produce the flour to bake different types of products. And obviously we have the cattle to have milk and stuff, so bread would have been more readily available over the thousands of years to come. And we also have a little shelter over our bowl offerings to just signify where that part is a more religious part, and we can want to protect it as much as we can. And we have a bit more life, and we have cut the trees back as well, so there are less trees in the area, so we can build more houses and more different structures as well, because we need the wood for them. So I will leave you here with a little tour of our village and the people in them working away and living their day-to-day life. So I'll see you in the next one.